You already know this argument. Jordan or LeBron? Rings or stats? 6 for 6?
NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat.
Or 2 decades of dominance?
The legend of LeBron continues. He moves past his idol, MJ.
It's the debate that's ended friendships, wrecked comment sections, and taken over every barbershop in the country for 20 years running.
He's the greatest second-place finisher of all time.
But most of the people arguing about it never actually played in the league. So instead of asking fans, we went and found the 10 men who lined up against both of them, guarded them, coached against them, or stood right next to them in the biggest moments of their careers. Here's what they actually think. We'll start with a guy who could throw his own name into this conversation and still doesn't. Magic has always been upfront that he loves LeBron, genuinely, not as a diplomatic hedge. But when the conversation turns to who's actually the greatest, he doesn't hesitate.
Don't get it twisted. I love LeBron, but no.
He points back to a single possession in the 1991 Finals against his own Lakers, where Jordan rose for a dunk, switched the ball from his right hand to his left in mid-air to avoid a shot blocker, and finished off the glass anyway. Magic still says nobody else alive could have pulled that off.
There's nobody alive that's been able to do just that. That boy is too bad, I'm telling you right now.
LeBron's great, in his eyes, but Jordan is still the guy every era gets measured against. He also brings up the moment Jordan turned to both him and Larry Bird directly and let them know there was a new sheriff in town.
Larry and I were talking, and Michael walks in, and he says, "There's a new sheriff in town."
And Magic admits that line has stuck with him for over 3 decades. Shaq has watched every generation of this league up close, and there's exactly one opinion he refuses to sit through: a GOAT conversation that doesn't end with Jordan at the top. During one heated debate, he got so worked up defending that stance that he threatened to just get up and walk off the set entirely.
Would you be mad at me if I just walked off the show?
You can't leave.
Hey,
Any other circumstance.
Are you aware that this man has tripled in...
His whole argument came down to one simple comparison. Jordan finished his career undefeated in the finals. That number, to Shaq, ends the discussion before it even starts.
Michael Jordan is what in the finals? 6 and what? Oh. And what is LeBron in the finals? That's all I got to say.
At one point, he even turned the argument back on the panel, joking he'd personally pay someone double just to get them to stop building the case for LeBron in front of him. Barkley's certainty goes back further than most. He tells a story from college when his coach seemed surprised that Barkley didn't consider himself the best player in the country. Barkley's response was to describe some guy he'd seen who was taller, faster, could out-jump everybody, and never stopped talking trash the entire game. His coach asked for a name. Barkley said Michael Jordan, and this was before Jordan had become Michael Jordan. To Barkley, the verdict was obvious from the very first time he saw him play, and his coach's stunned reaction to the name only confirmed how far ahead of everyone else that kid already was. Nobody has a more direct line of sight into Jordan's career than the man who stood next to him for all 6 championships. Pippen's issue isn't really with LeBron's talent. It's with the idea of anybody declaring themselves the greatest of all time out loud.
LeBron has been looked at as a two-guard, and people have compared him to the Michael, to the Kobe's, and it's a different position. It's not fair judgment for him.
In his view, that title isn't something you get to hand yourself. It's something your peers decide for you, and in his eyes, they already have. He'll admit the statistical gap has narrowed over the years, but to him, that's beside the point entirely. Peyton spent his career guarding the best scorers alive, which makes his take carry a little extra weight. He points out that Jordan never once ducked a tough defensive assignment. In fact, Jordan used to specifically ask to guard Peyton himself, telling Scottie Pippen to take someone else because he wanted that matchup. Peyton contrasts that with what he sees from LeBron today, suggesting the modern superstar carries so much offensive responsibility that he can't afford to burn extra energy chasing the toughest defensive matchup every night the way Jordan did. He also points out Jordan had Pippen to help share that defensive load, something LeBron has rarely had over the course of his career. Wade might have the most balanced answer on this entire list, mostly because he's one of the only people qualified to compare the two from both angles. He grew up idolizing Jordan and then spent years playing with LeBron. His answer has become one of the most quoted lines in this debate. Jordan is the greatest player he's ever watched, and LeBron is the greatest player he's ever seen. One he experienced from a television screen, the other he experienced from the next locker over. It's a distinction he's repeated so often, it's basically become his signature answer whenever the topic comes up. Dr. J refuses to force a clean answer, and he's been around long enough to have earned that right. He played against Jordan at the start of his career and has watched LeBron's entire rise since. Rather than crowning one guy, he widens the lens entirely, bringing up Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bill Russell as part of the same conversation. His honest position is that the debate can't really be settled while LeBron is still active. What he will say is that Jordan walked away from the finals having never lost, and won Finals MVP every single time he got there, a bar he admits is almost absurdly high to clear. Even so, he refuses to close the book on LeBron while there are still chapters left to write. Miller doesn't dismiss LeBron's case at all. The longevity, the number of finals appearances, the sheer volume of what he's accomplished all impress him. But he keeps coming back to one detail. You can't call yourself the greatest of all time if there's a legitimate argument that somebody else is still catching up to you. Jordan's perfect record on the biggest stage, in his mind, is the tiebreaker that keeps the conversation from ever fully flipping. 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs, and 0 losses when it mattered most. That's the line he keeps coming back to whenever the debate starts leaning the other way. KG is one of the most strongest competitors the league has ever produced, and even he describes Jordan as existing on a different level entirely. Not just better, but different in a way that's hard to put into words. He's talked about literally sensing an aura around Jordan whenever he walked into an arena, something he says wasn't exaggeration or nostalgia talking, just what it actually felt like sharing a court with him. He's repeated that same description in more than one interview over the years, and it sounds just as genuine every time. Van Gundy looks at this less like a fan and more like a coach who once had to build entire game plans around stopping Jordan. He'll be the first to admit LeBron's overall body of work and durability might be the greatest career the sport has ever produced, full stop. But if you asked him to pick one player to win a single winner-take-all game, he'd still take Jordan, pointing to the sheer combination of skill and competitiveness that let Jordan step away from the sport for 2 years, return to baseball and back, and immediately start scoring in the 50s again, like no time had passed at all. It's the kind of comeback that still doesn't fully add up on paper, and Van Gundy tells it like he still can't quite believe he watched it happen live. 10 legends, 10 different careers, and no single clean answer, which is exactly the point. The players who guarded Jordan and felt his competitive fury up close tend to put him at the very top without blinking. The ones who played beside LeBron and watched him operate season after season describe something they'd never quite seen before either. Maybe that's the real answer. Jordan redefined what a competitor could be. LeBron redefined what a player could be. Which side of that you land on might just depend on which one you watched with your own eyes. That's 10 verdicts from the men who actually lived it. Let us know which surprised you most.